Good morning everyone, today we're going to be talking about the Glissen weapons and whether they are worth it or not. But before we jump into that, if you're new to the channel, I upload NGS content daily, so if you do play this game, I would really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. So the first thing we need to understand is the Glissen weapon is an elemental weapon, which means it is infused with a specific element, so all of your auto attacks, all of your photon arts, as well as all of your techniques will deal that specific element. So what exactly is the advantages of hitting an enemy with the correct element that they are weak against? Well, the damage multiplier is actually 20%, so you're going to be dealing 20% more damage if you hit an enemy which is weak to said element. So for example, if you hit a Gigantix which is weak to lightning element, you'll deal 20% more damage versus if you hit the Gigantix with a regular weapon or with a weapon which is the wrong element. Furthermore, I've been receiving a lot of questions from Force mains asking me, Kero, if I cast a fire technique or an ice technique against an enemy that is weak to lightning, does it still apply the elemental weakness or not? And the answer is yes. So for example, if you are hitting a seasonal veteran, they are automatically weak to lightning. Even if you cast an ice technique or a fire technique, it will still give you that 20% damage increase even though you are dealing fire damage or ice damage. The reason for this is because if you have a Glissen Talist equipped, it automatically makes all of your attacks into lightning. However, the game is a little bit smart in the sense that if you hit, for example, a regular veteran, maybe they're weak to fire or they're weak to ice. Even if you have a Glissen weapon equipped and you cast the specific element that they are weak to, it will also apply the 20% damage increase because of the elemental weakness, which is really nice, especially for Force players, because if you equip the Glissen Talist, you're basically getting the 20% DPS increase from the elemental weakness regardless of what you do, because you're always dealing lightning damage if they're weak to lightning, and if they're weak to fire, you just cast fire techniques, and if they're weak to ice, you just cast ice techniques. And so it's a win-win-win across the board. You're always going to be dealing additional damage, which is really nice. Now, before we start talking about the disadvantages of the Glissen weapons, there are two more advantages. The first one is, of course, its potential. The potential over here is unleashes an extra attack that inflicts elemental down by re-attacking an enemy 10 seconds after an attack. So this is basically when you hit an enemy and then after 10 seconds you hit the enemy again, it will apply a second attack. Now don't be fooled by the wording over here. The cooldown is not actually 20 seconds, it's more like 30 seconds. The reason I say that is because after your first initial hit, there's a 10-second cooldown before you apply the extra attack, which gives you the chance of the elemental down. So technically it's 20-second cooldown plus 10 seconds over here. So it's more of a 30-second thing. The nice thing about this extra attack though is it deals AoE damage. Now the radius is actually really small. It's not like gigantic. You're not going to like kill everything or elemental down everything in the room, but it is AoE, so you can take advantage of that. Now last but not least, we have to talk about lightning exploit level 1. This gives us potency plus 2.5% against enemies weak to lightning. Now I do not know if this stacks with armors or not. You guys are gonna have to tell me because I have not had the chance to test this, but most of us think that it should stack, and it should stack multiplicatively. So unfortunately, I don't know the answer for this question, but if you put this on your weapon, it will definitely work, and it is great because your Glissen weapon automatically deals lightning damage. So this is basically a 2.5% more DPS increase against enemies which are weak to lightning. So that covers all the pros for the Glissen weapon by themselves. However, the Glissen weapons can also be created into a multi-weapon. So in my case, I was able to combine the Glissen sword with the Glissen wired lance together and thus take advantage of this. I could not do this with my Straga sword, and I could not do this with my Catalea sword either because there was no wired lance within those series, and this is one of the main reasons why I personally invested into the Glissen sword. However, now we gotta talk about the cons or the weaknesses of the Glissen weapons. Weakness number 1 is the Glissen weapons have very low attack. You can see my attack over here is 272 versus my Straga sword, which is 283. So you are losing a lot of base damage because the Glissen weapon is a 3-star rarity weapon. However, do keep in mind that you do get that 20% more DPS increase when you're hitting enemies which are weak to the lightning element. Con number 2 is the potential for this weapon is not that great in the sense of potency. The potency is very low. You can see over here that I currently have my Glissen sword at potential level 3 and it only gives me 13% potency. At level 4 it will only give me 14% potency versus my Straga sword over here, which gives me 27% potency at level 4. So you are missing out a ton of potency, and the way potency works is it's multiplicative, so actually losing out on that 10% or more is a huge deal. You're dealing a lot less damage because of this. Now the last con for the Glissen weapon is of course the item enhancements, the limit breaking, as well as unlocking the potentials and potentially the multi-weapon if you use that. This is a lot of investment. This is a lot of Meseta as well as minerals which you are investing into this weapon, which may be outdated very quickly, especially if we get 5-star rarity weapons and units with the introduction of Braver next month. So these are the risks that you're taking if you are investing into the Glissen weapons. But of course you guys want to hear my opinion about whether the Glissen weapons are worth it or not. In my personal opinion, I think the Glissen weapons are a great sub weapon to have. For example, if you are fighting Gigantix, veteran mobs, urgent quests, the Glissen weapons are amazing against those specific bosses. So if that is the content that you do all the time, or if you run that type of content regularly, then I believe that the Glissen weapon is worth it, simply because of the constant elemental downs which will make the boss immobile, where you can switch to your main weapon and deal the big PP damage. So for example, when I'm running next Vera, I will use the Glissen sword until the boss gets elemental down or broken. Then I will switch to my Straga sword and deal the big PP damage when I get to hit the weak spot uninterrupted, the boss is stunned, they can't move, and I just bring the pain train and beat the crap out of the boss. This works the same way with Gigantix, works the same way with veteran mobs. Basically the Glissen weapon is my sidearm, which I use to CC the boss. Once the boss has been crowd controlled, I switch to my big Straga sword, giant PP damage, and whack the crap out of the boss until it dies. So if you already have a main weapon at plus 40, fully augmented, potential level 4, then stick with that weapon. However, if you want to contribute more to the team, or maybe you need some quality of life changes such as the wired lance, then definitely take a look at the Glissen weapons. Special thanks to all the members for supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. Thank you again. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in today's video. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye!
What can I say except you're welcome for the heals, the boosts, the